It's not often I really offer a review opinion on a show or a film these days. That's kind of not what I do. I've gravitated away from that to try to stick to the business side of things because, as much as I enjoy reviewing things, I wanted to make the channel a little bit different. But every now and again, I've got to step back into the fold and really kind of express a personal opinion on a show or a film I've watched as it relates to some of the business news that we routinely discuss here on Valliant Renegade. Thanks for watching. What we've got here today, a couple of pieces that we're going to cover. And I'm bringing in a friend of mine, Michelle, from Force of Light Entertainment to discuss the Book of Boba Fett with me and some of the news that we're previewing here. January 15th on That Park Place from our friend WDW Pro, reporting that he's heard rumors from inside leakers at Disney, trusted sources that he's dealt with for some time, people that in the past have borne out to be far more accurate with their leaks than not. So I do have a great deal of faith in what Pro is reporting, but of course these are rumors, so do take them with a grain of salt, but I feel comfortable enough discussing them in the frame of this conversation. But the rumor is that the Book of Boba Fett has lost half its audience from the first to the third episode. Now we know that the Book of Boba Fett did not start with the greatest numbers on Disney Plus, coming in somewhere around Hawkeye and WandaVision, two of the lowest rated Disney Plus shows thus far. Well, the rumor is that they've lost about 50% of that since the first episode, which, quite frankly, having watched it so far, I can absolutely believe. Not only that, because we have now some financial publications that have picked up on it as well. This today from Forbes Magazine, a financial publication. Now, sure, Forbes also covers things like Hollywood and games and entertainment and some pop culture stuff, but this is still primarily a business and financial magazine. This is a magazine that does get read by quite a bit of the Fortune 500 company crowd. But they're acknowledging today that the Rotten Tomato scores have come down for Book of Boba Fett quite a bit. And I know Rotten Tomatoes is not something that I care much for all the time, but Rotten Tomatoes in and of itself does provide an interesting trend line from one show to the next. The same way we look at Samba TV ratings, while they may not be perfectly accurate, they do provide, within their own context, an interesting trend line by which to gauge how things are doing, in this case, streaming television shows. Well, the Rotten Tomato scores are a bit of a surprise, and when you have articles from Forbes Magazine like this calling this out, along with several others they've done in the past few weeks, it's worth paying attention to. So without further ado, let's get into it. Renegade Online. Well, welcome back, folks. Another great day here at Valliant Renegade. Good to see everybody again, and the channel has been growing like weed. Can't thank everybody enough. Apparently, everybody's been enjoying some of these videos out there, so we're going to keep it going. And in addition to having other guests that you guys enjoy, like Cameron Pasha on here, I've been wanting to bring in some other folks as well to talk a little bit more about the Star Wars fan side. And for that today, I have my friend Michelle from Force of Light Entertainment. So Michelle, welcome aboard. Tell the folks out there a little bit about yourself and the channel.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me. And you are right. Your channel's growing like wild. So congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. And you guys too. I mean, y'all's channel has really come along. I think we're about the same size at this point.
Yes.
And people seem to love your content as well. I mean, I know y'all do a lot of Star Wars stuff, but tell us a little bit more about kind of how y'all got started. And I know Natalie's not here. She couldn't join us tonight, but the two of y'all together just make a great team. So talk a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yeah, well, my co-host is my sister, so I'd say we kind of have chemistry that we've just had because we've been with each other our whole lives. But yeah, we cover pop culture, movie reviews, where you kind of come in the money route. We just more give our general opinion on how much we enjoy things route, the typical opinion, I guess, or way of approaching that. And then also we like to kind of keep an eye on, really since the Gina Carano thing, if Hollywood does something that needs to be called out, we don't have a problem calling that out or going against kind of them placing SJW ideology into everything they put out. Our channel, we're not really having that, so we do commentary videos too, just kind of combating, pushing back a little bit against some of the nonsense you could say that goes on in Hollywood as well.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And one of the things I really appreciate about your channel is we need more and more, good, strong female voices in this mix too, I think, because I know there's a lot of us guys out there. We love to talk about the nerd stuff, but there's a lot of ladies out there too that love this stuff. And I think it's great that you and your sister are doing this, because I think it's I know there's some other channels out there like that, but we need more and more of them. We need more different voices. And I think it's great that you guys are doing what you do. So you and I had this conversation a few weeks ago. You and I did a video together on your channel talking about Warner Brothers. And I know we talked about, let's get together and talk some Star Wars stuff. Let's talk some Boba Fett. Now that we're 2 or 3 episodes at this point into the season, we've got episode 4 coming out in a couple of days. We're recording this on a Monday evening. Probably everybody's seeing this Tuesday morning. But at this point, for me personally, I'm not as excited now that we're 3 episodes into the show as I thought I would be. I had a lot of excitement coming in. And for me personally, I haven't gotten that payoff yet. I haven't gotten that hook. And I was curious to get your thoughts, your, feelings on, how you came into the show, how you approached it, how you've reacted to it so far, because it seems pretty mixed out there in the fandom so far. What do you think?
Yes. Well, for starters, I was never one of those big Boba Fett fans. Like, I was a Han Solo girl, so Boba Fett was like the enemy. He ruined the moment with him and Princess Leia. So I was never a Boba fan, but he won me over in The Mandalorian because he helped Grogu, obviously. So I didn't have some big expectations for the show. I loved, you can tell behind me, I really enjoyed The Mandalorian. You can even go back on our channel and watch. We did a trailer reaction for the Book of Boba Fett, and the trailer, I said pretty much immediately, I said that doesn't seem as interesting as like the Mandalorian trailer did to me, and I didn't have any expectations of the Mandalorian when I first saw that trailer, and that's kind of how it stayed. Like, actually, probably even below, because the trailer to me was like, eh, and then 3 episodes in, it's forgettable at best and really bad at worst. Like that's kind of where I feel it's been these 3 episodes. And I hate to say that. I enjoy the world, and I know so many people were so looking forward to seeing where this character went, but it just has not grabbed me at all.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And like you, I was never. I mean, I liked Boba Fett. I thought the character was cool. He was never, like one of the penultimate Star Wars characters for me personally, but I liked him. I mean, I enjoyed the fact that he had such a mystique about him. And I thought,
Yeah.
I liked Tamora Morrison. I think he's a good actor, a funny guy. And I thought he did, great in the prequels when I saw him there 20 years ago, how he filled that role of his father, Jango Fett, and you knew it was going to get passed along. And it just seems like, Boba Fett we've seen so far is a little out of character, and he's in, sitting in a story right now that is struggling to find a sense of direction, at least for me.
Yes.
We've spent so much time in flashback mode.
And the BAFTA or the back to tank, flashback tank. Yeah.
Yeah. The flashback to tanks. Yeah. And it's, and this past week we had, we had the Black Wookiee walk in, apparently past nobody who was guarding the place, and just strolled up and grabs him out of the tank. And my first thought is, how did he even get in there?
Yeah.
So it's little things like that. But I'm hoping that this series goes on longer, or at least in terms of the interest builds as the series goes on longer, I should say. But I'm a little concerned at this point, because we've heard a number of rumors, and you may have as well, of other characters that may be, making some surprise appearances towards the end of the series. I'm starting to feel like, even if we do get some big reveals, like we have a deep faked Han Solo, and Grogu comes back with Luke and Leia and all this kind of stuff, that'd be great. We finally get to see all 3 characters on the screen together. I'm a little worried that the lack of quality storytelling leading up to that is going to suck a lot of that air out of the room. Like it's not going to have the impact it should. I don't know if that's kind of crossed your mind. I just curious to get your thoughts on that.
Well, I totally agree because we were kind of promised some big Luke-esque from Mando season 2 type cameos, and we haven't really gotten any really big cameos besides I know some of the uh comic characters or EU characters, I mean, yeah, EU comic characters have been in it. But as far as truly big cameos, we haven't really gotten any. And I think kind of go to what you were saying, it the cameos worked in Mandalorian. Say Luke, that worked so well in Mandalorian because they had already built like a really good cake. And that was just the icing on the cake. And it's like
Yes.
right now, I feel like if you did a big cameo, then we just got like a big thing of icing, and that's good. We enjoy it, but there's nothing like there's no real good breading with it either. It's just that's kind of where it is. Where my
Yeah.
cake analogy here, but yeah, that it just you're totally right because if they throw them in now, it's like oh, it's exciting, but the show itself hasn't grabbed you.
Yeah, and no, I think the cake analogy is a good one. It is just icing, and the reason why the icing was so good with Mando season 2 with Luke showing up, I think, is because the cake was good. You're getting, I mean,
Yes.
we had, and not every part of the story elements were perfect. Sure, there were
Mhm.
some things that were maybe a little superfluous in terms of it was a little bit of filler here and there, with some extra side quests. And I understand that Disney needs to try to stretch these shows out for as many episodes as they could. Sometimes that means it seems at least some artificial fluff that gets added into the script so they can, hey, we need to get this to 7 episodes instead of 6 because we need to get, in my opinion, we need to try to squeeze one extra month of billing out of the Disney Plus cycle, before people, because churn is a big problem for these streaming services. I think the show is scheduled to have its final episode on the second week of February, which probably by no coincidence is just a few days prior to, although I don't think they've scheduled it yet, but it's usually around that time, a few days prior to the quarterly report for Disney stockholders. So it's, all this news coming up, and I want to get into that next, is that the conversation you and I have had, obviously, we're not the only two that think this.
Yeah.
Seen a lot of just meh attitude from the fan base out there, even the ones that may have liked the first or the second episode that I didn't. It seems like we
Mhm.
got to episode 3 and we got the mighty Morphin Vespa Rangers showing up on the rainbow colored scooters. And it seems like everybody across the board, didn't matter if you liked the first 2 episodes or hated them, everybody got to that point and went, oh god, it's just kind of everybody had that reaction. As far as the audience is concerned, I think everybody's just kind of lost it, really getting confused as far as where is this show going at this point. But there's been some interesting stuff, and I wanted to show you this. Let me bring this up on the screen real quick. So here's the first one. This is from that park place. This is from WDW Pro and his staff over there. And a couple of days ago, on the 15th of January, he starts hearing some murmurs from his contacts inside Disney, who he's brought out some information that has borne out pretty correct in the past a great many times, because we usually see it pop up in trades, or we see things that get backed up later by places like Samba TV, who records audience measurements, how many people are watching, which they're not always accurate, but they do provide a pretty good trend line so we can see, hey, this show performed really well, the next show didn't. It's all inside Samba, so we can kind of compare one show to the other with the same mathematical measurements. But this one was interesting. Rumor, the Book of Boba Fett has lost half of its audience. Now,
Gosh.
this is from episode 1 to episode 3. And this is what Pro is saying he's hearing from inside, and saying, the first episode barely topped Hawkeye, which was one of the lowest rated shows in terms of viewership on Disney Plus that they've had since the whole Marvel Universe thing started. It barely beat out WandaVision, which was the first one they put out. They'd had a trend from WandaVision to Falcon to Loki, where the audience views had been climbing pretty steadily, and then they hit a brick wall with Hawkeye apparently, and it looks like Book of Boba Fett is suffering some of that same fate. But what I found interesting is, he's saying what he's being told is that episode 3 of Book of Boba Fett has shed approximately 50% of the audience of the original episode, depending on how you quantify the viewership. He brings up things like Samba. But it looks like the interest is waning. And then we had a follow-on article yesterday from Forbes Magazine, and they start bringing this up. Sure enough, a day after Pro drops his article, we start seeing things, and not just from Hollywood trades, but from financial magazines, financial publications, which is interesting. Book of Boba Fett has some pretty massive problems, and they go in here talking about views of the episode. A lot of Grandpa Boba Fett. I mean, this is a byline of one of their paragraphs. But again, not to kind of belabor the whole article, but they're obviously comparing it to Mando. They're saying that there just seems to be a lack of interest in this. The Boba Fett we knew in the original Star Wars trilogy, the strong and silent type, lurking in the shadows, ready to work alongside Vader and Jabba without batting an eye. And we never saw because he was always hidden behind the Beskar steel Mandalorian helmet. So some of your reactions to this, I'm curious. I mean, when you look back at the Boba Fett that we've known up to this point, the Boba Fett we're getting now, and I know we talked a little bit about this on Midnight's Edge today. It seems like, or at least I feel like, I don't know if you do as well, I'm kind of wondering if they didn't, blow a lot of their ideas on Mandalorian. That when they got to this show, which my understanding is this was the original intent of Mandalorian, was to basically feature Boba Fett. Now I don't know if they have anything left in the tank. Like, it seemed like they were confused. They had to make a show that maybe looked different, but they didn't know how it could look. I don't know. What are your thoughts on some of that?
No, I think that's a really solid point, because I know Jon Favreau is a huge Boba fan, and like you said, wanted to do Boba Fett, and they let him do The Mandalorian. To me, this show has just kind of always felt, from the moment they first announced it at the end of season 2, it just kind of felt like a bonus, just kind of just this extra. And I feel that way as a fan, but it almost feels that way like with the amount of love and energy that went into making the show. Like, this will, we'll just kind of do this next. And the show just hasn't really had any momentum or excitement. And it really may be because they've already used up the better storylines. But I think the thing too, I think they had a decent storyline, possibly, from what we were told, because we were kind of, from the trailer, not kind of, definitely, it was like we were going to get this new take on Boba, where he's taken over Jabba's, I don't know what we want to call it, his gangster
Jabba's, his crime syndicate or whatever.
Yes, his crime syndicate. And so we're kind of promised that, and then we get in, and it's nothing like that. As you said, he's not the Boba Fett that would work for Vader or Jabba without batting an eyelash. All of a sudden now he won't even punch somebody. Like, he's the nicest crime lord I've ever met. And I think that's where it's probably even killed even more enthusiasm. It was kind of a bait and switch where people are like, oh, like, he's nice. And
he did some butt kicking, but it was all in the flashbacks, if I remember. It wasn't in the main current timeline, which should be the main storyline of this show. It seems like we saw him walk in the bar and he kicked the speeder bike gang's butt, but that was 4 or 5 years ago. As he's remembering this in the flashback to Tank. We haven't really seen a lot of present day butt kicking.
Well, and it's funny they say Grandpa Boba Fett, because it's like they're probably getting that because anytime he has the a little fight, it's straight to the back to Tank. Like, it's like he apparently has a lot of health issues in the show too. So I just don't think it's what people were looking for, to be honest.
No, and maybe if they do a second season, it'll be about Boba filing for Medicare. I don't know. I hope not. I want to be wrong, but This next paragraph, in every single possible imaginable way, Mando seems more like the Boba Fett than Boba Fett does. It's weird. He's the bounty hunter. He's the strong, silent type, and he's the right age. Pedro Pascal being in his mid-40s. And that's kind of goes to what we're talking about. And then I love how, here we go. And this is the point. Everybody hates scooter kids. This is
everyone
Forbes.
does.
This is Forbes Magazine. I mean, this is not, this is not a fan website or something. This is this is the financial magazine of record, for big business, or one of the, 2 or 3 major ones. And again, when you see stuff like this, it kind of has to make you wonder, how it got to this point. And I know there's a lot of theories about, Favreau has been probably fairly distracted with other things, like we talked about earlier, the whole Gina Carano situation that probably threw a huge monkey wrench into a lot of writing and plans that they had for the entirety of the Mandoverse, as I'll call it, because I can't think of anything else to call it at this point on Disney Plus. But I'm sure that had a lot of impact. It seems like Alan Bergman has stepped in. We've talked about this on the channel before, basically telling Favreau, according to rumors, and again from WDW Pro, that he needs Favreau to lead Lucasfilm and Star Wars specifically back into the theaters, because it's not getting done at this point. I mean, they're so far behind where they were supposed to be. And this was, the intention of buying Lucasfilm, spending that much money was, remember, they were going to have Star Wars movies in theaters every year, just about. And they haven't gotten anything into pre-production in over 5, almost 6 years now. So I obviously, maybe Favreau is being stretched thin. Maybe there's other people in the writer's room that are demanding certain things. I don't know. What do you think?
Do you know what's interesting? I was thinking, again, back to like when we first got the first image of the show at the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, and it just felt like this tacked on thing. I wonder, it's like, did they just think because they could give us Boba Fett and that we would just all come running in no matter what it was like? Because to me, it's like, why did they pick this show if they didn't have a well thought out, well crafted show for this character? Why not just move on to Ahsoka, which we all know they're doing, or one of the other spin-off Mandalorian shows? Why did we get this when they clearly didn't really have I mean, when you can't come up with 35 minutes, 7 35-minute episodes that are really good and tight and cinematic, then you probably shouldn't have done that show, in my opinion.
I don't think you're wrong. I really don't. Because I mean, that's exactly what I feel like at this point, is that it just doesn't seem like this doesn't have anywhere near the same heart to it that Mando had. And for all of the imperfections that Mando may have had, there was a lot of heart in it. I mean, that was Baby Yoda, Grogu. I mean, it was the instant hook. At the end of the first episode, it was like everybody's in, and everybody's all in. When those little ears perked up and eyes pop open in the bassinet, I mean, you were done. That was it.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten that moment here. But to kind of continue down the road on this one, what I found interesting is that, again, today, we get this today, talking about the Book of Boba Fett and the audience reviews. And, same thing here, Book of Boba Fett audience score. This is again from WDW Pro at that Park Place. Book of Boba Fett audience score falls. Favreau's taken some blame. Again, Favreau's got the writing credits on the show, but I look at it and I go, this doesn't feel like a Jon Favreau written script or story. I mean, I know his name's on it, but this just feels very out of character for him. And I have to wonder, how much he really engaged in it. But they're talking in this article about some of the numbers, and I'm going to bring up another Forbes piece that came out today that I just had up on the screen. And of course, we had Tamora Morrison come out talking about, and this was crazy, and I wanted you to talk on this a little bit. I mean, but it sounded like he was saying he didn't like the way that his character was portrayed in the show. And did you see this one?
I did. And I wonder if it's like they wanted him to talk more because of The Mandalorian, but that goes back to the point we were just making. Well, because if they had 2 characters that had Mandalorian gear on, that are really quiet, it's like that wouldn't really work. And that leads me back to once we got The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian was a massive hit. I mean, a massive hit amongst audiences. Why not just not go the Boba Fett route and just kind of let him appear in the other shows. I think at this point, after watching what I've watched for 3 episodes, he would have been better served to just have appearances like he did in Mando season 2.
Yeah, I think so. I think less of Boba is more. I agree with you.
Yes.
I mean, because that goes back to part of the mystique of the character. He was always,
Yes.
a man of very few words and bad action when he needed to, just blasting somebody. And I think Tamora kind of appreciates that, but again, he's the actor. He's the hired gun in this case, no pun intended.
Yeah.
And he's at the mercy of the showrunner and the script and the director and whatnot. But I think the man has a point, and I know
Mhm.
Pro talks about this in this article. So talking about did Favreau lose the Midas touch and all this? And I know he's speculating. I personally don't think he has. I think he's still a brilliant guy he's a brilliant writer. I love some of his independent films. Chef is still one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you've ever seen that one that he did.
I haven't.
If you have not seen that, I would highly encourage you to look it up. I think may still be on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something, but go watch Chef. That is a true Favreau film. He just made it a few years ago.
Okay.
But really, really good movie. My son and I love it. And, but to this end, and this is where I thought it was interesting, is once again today, we got this picked up by the financial magazines, Forbes again, talking about Book of Boba Fett. And this is where the rubber really meets the road, because this is concerning. This is the part, we've set all this up. This is where the data and the business points come in for me, is that when we go down here, it talks about, again, we're looking at viewership that has precipitously declined according to these inside sources. And then this is the other thing, and this is what goes right along with it, and it seems to back up some of the news that WDW Pro has gotten. Look at these numbers. This is the Rotten Tomato scores. And I know I'm not a big Rotten Tomatoes fan. I don't take what they say as gospel. But again, it's a gauge. Just like Samba TV numbers are, it is a gauge, at least compared to other Rotten Tomato scores from time to time. But you look at this is all the series. Marvel's What If scored a 95% audience rating. Mando season 1 at 92. Hawkeye 92, which had some of the lowest audience viewership on Disney Plus, as we mentioned. Loki at 91, Mando season 2 at 90, WandaVision at 88, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I loved the two characters right up until I watched that show, which was driving me nuts. I think they destroyed those characters. And then the Book of Boba Fett, 20% behind, 65%. It is not only is it last place in terms of Disney Plus shows, original shows between Marvel and Star Wars, it is 20 points behind the next lowest. That is staggering to me.
Yeah, that is awful. And I mean, especially when you you compare it to Mandalorian. And it goes to show these companies, it's not all about a recognizable, beloved character. It's about writing a good, unique story. Because the Mandalorian, we didn't know who Din was. We didn't have a clue who that character is. And yet his story is at 90 and 92% compared to Boba Fett, who's one of the most beloved Star Wars characters, sitting at a 65. Because the story, it's just not there right now.
No, I don't think it is. And I've gotten pretty frustrated with it. I told Coach and Nick, our mutual friends over at Echo Base, the other night, I was like, I think I'm out. I don't know, because at this point, I feel like I'm forcing myself to watch this show, which I shouldn't have to be forcing myself to watch it. And I'm still tempted to just, look at review channels like yours at Force of Light. And it's like, y'all watch it. Y'all do a review on it. I'll watch your YouTube video first and then decide if I want to go back and watch the episode. Because like I said, at this point, I feel like there's not much that's been done to really get me in. I know you feel the same way, but and look, I hope they have a big grand finale and we all get this massive surprise at the end, like, oh, we had no idea this was the direction the story was going. That can still happen.
Yes.
We could go there, and that would be great. I don't know if it's going to make up for, up to this point, the first 3 episodes being kind of boring. And to me, that's always a bigger crime than being a bad show, is being a boring show, and I've honestly been bored with it. I
I've
don't know how
been
you feel.
bored almost from the beginning. Like, it's been boring to me. Very
Yes.
forgettable, very boring. Um, well, and something too you had pulled up about
Mhm.
the audience dropping, I think, was it 50%?
Yes, the article from WDW Pro. Mhm.
Because if that is the case and people are already checked out, it's gonna take buzz from the people remaining watching it, of it truly getting really good as it goes on for people they're probably just waiting at this point. They're like, "Well," like just like you said, "I'll listen to their review." It's like, it's almost like I bet there's X amount of people at this point that are so disinterested, they're like, "Well, I'll just let the final episodes come out, and then I'll binge them if I hear they're good."
That's
Because
where I'm feeling right now. Yeah.
yeah, because if not, the week in and week out, if Disney wants to do that, and I understand why they wanna do that,
Mhm.
well, then you better have a hook at the end of every single episode that makes people wanna come back. And thus far, they have it at the end of any of the episodes, in my opinion.
No, they don't, and I think, I believe it was probably Cameron Pasha who said something today about, on Midnight's Edge, and I think he talked about that. It might have been Script Doctor, or it might have been both. But they said, somebody said it felt like the episode breaks are in awkward places, like they don't feel
They
placed in the
are,
right
yeah.
spot, like, and to the extent that exactly what you just said, Michelle, about that the ending of an episode, especially with a week break, should lead you into the next one, make you want to come back. None of that's really happened. I mean, it's apart from the episodes being a bore fest. I'm sorry for me. I know for you too, and a lot of other folks out there, from what I'm seeing, there's nothing leading me into the next episode. And that's why I feel like at this point, like you, I'm like, I don't, do I want to sit here? Because this is one of the reasons why I think I kind of stopped doing reviews on my channel. I didn't want to basically corner myself into having to stick it out watching a show I didn't like just because I already started doing reviews on it, you know? So I
Yeah,
was like,
we did that, and that's where we are. It's like, well, I started, I guess I'll finish this, but, yeah,
well,
I'm not
look,
loving it.
and I'm glad you're doing it. I think y'all are doing some good reviews because people need honest reviews. I mean, the whole point of doing it is to say, look, this is just how I felt in this. It doesn't mean you have to feel this way or that you're stupid for not agreeing with me. It's just everybody's going to have a different take. But at this point, and I don't know if it's been your experience with your channel doing the reviews themselves, but it seems like more and more people, apart from there was already a good batch of people that weren't enthralled with this show to begin with. Now it seems like
Yes.
there's that number has gone up dramatically.
Yes. Well, and even on our channel, the 3rd review we did was more over 50% less than, views than, which is what this article is saying, than the, episode 2 that we did. And maybe it did get in the algorithm, but also maybe people just have already lost interest, as this article is saying.
Well, and I think you're right. And I think that's a very interesting point. I had done a little research digging last year when Bad Batch came out, and the same kind of rumors were coming out about that. And sure enough, the data that I managed to compile using a similar kind of measurement system, looking at some big Star Wars YouTube channels and drawing conclusions from views week to week as each episode got reviewed. And it was the same thing. It was definitely on a very precipitous climb. And you're seeing it now.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and something else too that I was just thinking of for the show that's just kind of, I mean, it just is what it is. After the whole, they had such goodwill after season 2 of Mandalorian with the return of Luke Skywalker. Then you get the firing of Gina Carano. And that really like sucked the air out of the room. And pretty much they needed this show to be awesome to be able to have a chance to get people's excitement back after what they did to Gina. So
Yes.
when you have the Gina situation and then you get a very maybe average show, and like I said, in my opinion, kind of bad, then you're gonna get no buzz because you've already ticked all your fans off, and now you don't even have a product that truly draws them back in. Like they're like, oh, it's can't miss TV for them. But in this case, they're like, well, shoot, I'll just keep my Disney Plus canceled.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just it. This is. I mean, Disney Plus does not have a ton of original content yet. They're
Yeah.
working on it hard now. They were delayed for a year and a half with production lockdowns thanks to the coof, and now they're playing catch up. And I know they're spending somewhere close now to 13 to 15 billion dollars in content over the next 12 to 18 months, just producing it. Hundreds of different shows, original programming for Disney Plus, not just for U.S. markets, but for all their international markets as well. There's gonna be a lot of things that they'll make. There'll probably be 100 shows they make that we'll never see here in the States because they're for certain foreign markets. But they have a lot of content in the till. But right now, it's like this was a show that they were counting on to really hold the line, as it were, and bring in a lot of new subs. And it just feels like it ain't happening yet. And I hope, like I said, they might get to the last episode. That might change. But that's kind of where we are at this point. So, any case, Michelle, well, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate this, and best of luck to your channel. Any final thoughts before we check out?
And no, just thank you very much for having me. Again, I think we've been on the same page with this show, so it's nice to come on and chat with you about it.
Well, good. I'm glad you did, and we'll definitely have to do this again. Like I said, I love talking to different folks, getting kind of different takes and on things, and especially when it comes to Star Wars. This is one of the few things, at least in terms of pop culture, that I still really like to comment on.
Yeah, I
But
understand.
I hope this show gets better. But in any
Yeah.
case, make sure you guys go check out Force of Light Entertainment. The link will be below in the YouTube description. And until next time, take care.